I can't believe we actually got it before GTA 6. We spawn in, and the very first thing I do is bully a drunk. After a decade, it's finally here. Red Dead Redemption 1 for the PC. Is this port any good? Is this game still good? Or does it play like Warren Buffett's shriveled old balls on a pool table? Today we're going to find out. We've arrived to town on a mission, but we aren't clear on exactly what. We meet up with Jake, who immediately tosses away his prostitute in the name of our business. Clearly, he takes us seriously because he can see how sharp and well-rendered our face is in this year of our remaster 2024. Jake and I head outside and we get our little riding tutorial, and then it's on to the nearby encampment where Bill Williamson is passing his days as the half-baked bandit king of New Austin.
Now I'm in charge!
I tell him it's time to end his regime of terror like the USA did to Saddam Hussein, but he tells us he never will, and one of his men shoots at us just like Saddam Hussein did to nuclear and chemical arms inspector Hans Blix, except the bullet was a refusal to answer any question to Hans's liking. Unable to withstand Bill's vicious attack, we engage in a tactical retreat to a nearby ranch at the expense of one Bonnie McFarlane. Once again, I'm baffled at the clean and tasteful implementation of upscaling and the high resolution of the textures and clear anti-aliasing. So many games these days either end up blurry or have sparkling hair. It's so lame. This is the power of a 2009 game developer, and I'm declaring it now, death to the Vaseline-smeared cringe of modern games.
Meanwhile, if you'll excuse me, I've got a ranch to run.
This woman Bonnie runs a ranch in the middle of nowhere, and it's a rough life trying to make a living in the desert, but it turns out that she's single, so at least it won't be boring for me. Unfortunately, John drones on and on about how he's a married man on a mission. It's kind of cringe how much being a wife guy is his replacement for a personality, and even Bonnie makes fun of him for it. Anyway, she hires us to do some work around the place, like genocide the local rabbit population. And she picked the right man for the job. Because as an elite gamer, those starving and innocent bunnies stand less chance of survival than a Palestinian cancer patient.
Thank you, Mr. Marston. Looks like we'll be happy to wrap.
Next up, it's time to eliminate coyotes that are breaking into Bonnie's henhouse. Unfortunately, that is not a euphemism, and I'm just being paid to put down a pack of wild dogs like a Navy SEAL, hunting down Uday Hussein, Saddam's worst son, during the invasion of Iraq in 2003. And this might seem like an out-of-pocket thing to say, but after Saddam's professional food taster introduced Saddam to his second wife, Uday was offended on behalf of his mother, Saddam's first wife. And while at a dinner party hosted by the president of Egypt, Uday murdered Saddam's food taster with an electric carving knife in front of the entire party. So anyway, yeah, only a wild dog would use another man's kitchenware instead of his own gun to commit casual public murder. It's just shameful.
But I bet you can't ride, Mr. Marston.
I hate to take money from a lady.
Next up, Bonnie challenges us to a race, and this is a perfect time to take a look at the improvements to the general world art. While we race over flaming piles of dung for speed boosts, I can't help but appreciate how smooth everything runs in motion and at high speeds. So many games have to resort to gnarly pop-in or turn to a complete blurry mess from upscaling when you're in motion, unless you actually turn on motion blur, which most gamers never will. I actually don't completely hate motion blur at all times, which the unclean and overly bearded will say makes me a heretic, but don't you listen to their false dogma. We get to experience the soft light of the sunrise as we traverse the countryside, and combined with the soundtrack, it really brings to life that open plain Midwest feeling of an early morning high-paced stroll among the dew-laden grass.
You're lucky I'm being a gentleman!
Come on, boys.
After we definitely win the race, Bonnie tells us that we should meet up with the marshal in the nearby town of Armadillo.
That was fun.
I have to say that one of the things I've always thought was weird with the Red Dead games is that every time I mount a horse, I want to press forward to make it go, but instead you have to spur the horse a couple times to get it up to speed, then hold the spur button to maintain that speed. It's a huge pain in the ass if you play on keyboard and mouse like I do, because this is a PC port after all, so I have to test the controls, but also it turns on fucking sticky keys every 10 seconds. So after a 30-second break to disable the most annoying accessibility setting ever invented, I'm back on the job with Bonnie transporting this carriage to Armadillo. We have a pleasant and flirtatious ride, and John spills the beans about his former life as a murderous, rampaging bastard in the Dutch Vanderlyn gang, to which she's like, well, you seem alright to me. And goddamn, it was impossible to be cancelled in 1903. Imagine if you posted on Twitter today that you smoked cigarettes, open-carried firearms, and abandoned your own wife to run the farm while you embarked on a quest for vengeance. The only people that would like you would be your smelly uncle who has weird opinions about human mating rituals, is a little bit too excited about politics, and subscribes to the Everyday Carry subreddit. As we enter town, a man runs his horse into our carriage and faceplants hard. He opens fire on us, and I just continue driving because I have a feeling that if I shoot him, there'll be hell to pay, and there's bound to be a cutscene reset coming up. What do you know? Looks like I'm a genius. Bonnie dismisses us to the doctor to purchase some medicine, and I'm extremely excited to buy legal heroin. The only place you can do that these days is the Taco Bell parking lot after 10 p.m., and I like to keep a healthy sleep schedule. On our way to the store, we, continue taking fire, but I just mind my own business, hopeful that the problem will solve itself like Margaret Thatcher with a yeast infection, but no such luck. Instead, I approach the man menacingly with the hope that he will understand that I am the main character. Instead, he wants to test his agency as an NPC, and so I rearrange his face with high-velocity lead like a Chinese industrial accident video on liveleak.com. Bonnie leaves us in Armadillo to explore for a while, and we head up to Marshall. His deputy is a low-T soy-maxing piss baby and pulls a pistol on us, but the Chad Marshall orders him to sit the fuck down when Dad's talking. We ask him for help with Bill Williamson, which I still can't believe that name is real, and he tells us that things are proper gaped and salted here, so there's no shot unless we can give him a hand first.
Turn a blind eye to them burning down settlements up there. I got a bunch of cattle rustlers out near Box Canyon needs shutting down. Not forgetting the gang that keeps murdering homesteaders out in the back country. And I got a bunch of hoods over in the saloon, drunk, threatening to shoot up the whole town. That's all I got today. But it's early yet. Give me a couple more days. There'll be more.
We tail a local hoodlum from the saloon to his hideout, and once we get there, it's go time.
Smoke him up! Behind the outhouse! Bastard in front of a judge!
Not a bad shot, Mr. Marston.
Marshall gives us props and asks to meet up later back in town, and I take my time riding out in the wilderness. Red Dead games have always gotten a bad rap for being too open or empty in my opinion. They're made to elicit the feeling of endless space, which is exactly what it feels like when you're on a backpacking trip miles deep in America's nature pussy. We stumble across a man who's being shot at by multiple assailants, and I feel like this is an easy opportunity to loot excess cash, so I wholesale slaughter every armed man. The individual nearby, who felt I saved his life, offers me a map as payment, which I promptly ignore because treasure maps are for Disney movies and I wouldn't make it past orientation working for the mouse. Now, we finally have enough cash to make some serious purchases, and the first thing on my list is a place to stay in Armadillo. Upstairs in the tavern, there's a room for rent next to the rooms that the hookers use to entertain their Johns, and I figure it's only fair I have one for entertaining mine. Speaking of well-spent money, after playing Red Dead 2, the amount of money you earn in this game is completely insane. It's like there's a money printer dumping heaps of cash into every train car, just for it to be shoveled onto innocent bystanders right here in this rural railroad town. But also, I'm not complaining because it took forever to afford anything in RDR2. Anyway, now that I have somewhere to stay and money to spend, I immediately begin donating it in the name of a drunken stupor. I then stumbled my way back to the McFarland Ranch, where I herd some cattle with Bonnie in a simple game of left means right and right means left, but no always means no, so that's why you use the drugs, to heal from rejection in a healthy manner that respects the consent and boundaries of all parties.
Your true calling, Mr. Marston. Either that, or you were a cow in a past life.
Speaking of boundaries, I challenged Rufus to a game of horseshoes behind the barn. I'm a bit terrible at it at first, but he didn't know that he was facing the chosen one. It's like I was Broly and the horseshoe pit was Vegeta's face. Rufus felt like he just lost the cheek clencher of his life, but the truth was, this game was over before it even started because I am one of the greatest to ever challenge him to a game of horseshoes for $5. And with that, folks, I think it's clear. Red Dead Redemption Remastered for the PC absolutely fucks, and it's about damn time that Rockstar figured out how to make a PS3 era game run on PC like silk on titties. Subscribe.
Nearly there.
That was fun.